I'm sorry to say this, but tipping culture has gotten out of control. And I just want to preface this by saying that I always tip 20% at like standards. I went to this like local, like little, it's like a burger and fry place, kind of like the local version of McDonald's. So like chicken tenders and fries, right? I get up to the pay window and she's like, how much do you want to tip? And I'm just like, what? And she's like, yeah, did you want to leave a tip? And she's like pointing to them. And I was like, oh no, not today. And then I just felt really uncomfortable. But like, homegirl, what am I gonna tip you for? I'm in the fucking drive-thru. Oh my God.
I have decided that I will no longer be tipping over 15%, and here's why. Aggressive tipping culture, like we see in parts of Canada, like Vancouver, where they're asking for 25% tips. You cannot convince me that this isn't a strategy from business owners to put more money in their pockets. They are relying on the kindness of strangers to fill the gap between what they pay their employees and what they actually should be paying their employees as a living wage. The more people buy into this process of tipping higher and higher and higher, the less incentive it's gonna give the business owners to actually raise wages. I will tip 15% for exceptional in-person sit-down restaurant service, but I will not be tipping on random transactions, me buying coffee, people opening beers for me. I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna do it. And if you have a problem with this, talk to your employer. The pressure needs to be on employers here.
This is gonna make you mad.
This DoorDash customer only tipped $1? Let's see what he got at Arby's, huh? It's got the beef and cheddar and the crinkle fries. Oh man, that's my favorite. Thank you, $1 tip off.
First of all, those aren't crinkle fries, those are curly fries, you asshole. And you wanna know what's really toxic about all this? Other than the freaking hamburglar here? Tipping culture. It's getting out of control now. You gotta tip servers, Uber drivers. I swear I got a speeding ticket the other day and there was a place to add gratuity. And tips are great, but your salary shouldn't be dependent on it. These companies should pay their employees a living wage. The tips should just be a bonus. Whatever, I'm 90% sure this guy's video's fake anyway.
This woman lost her mind when she saw an extra $44 was added to her bill. This TikToker being so famous is starting a massive debate online after posting a video showing her questioning the restaurant staff about the gratuity added to her bill.
And why is it $44? It's the tip. The tip? Y'all didn't put that shit on there? Yeah.
This clip has everyone divided online, with some people arguing that the 20% gratuity was excessive, while others felt that tipping generously, considering the rising cost of living, was justified.
I fucking hate tipping culture, bro. You cannot tell me it's normal to.
This literally reminds me of a TikTok I saw the other day of a girl crying about not getting enough pays and tips and not getting enough tips and how, you know, she wasn't going to be able to live off of that. And of course I felt for the girl, but like, it's just the most American thing I've ever heard in my life. Because for you to be cussing out the customer to not pay you in tips, you need to be asking the right questions, and I don't think you're asking them. We need to be blaming the capitalist society instead of the non-tipper. Look at the bigger issue, guys. We should not be working jobs where we should have to be living off of our tips. And that's on period. We deserve better than that.
If you don't have money to tip your server and you go out to eat and don't tip your server, I have zero respect for you.
Paint me out to be the villain here, because I'm not. I'm just going to share my opinion. I've never been a server, but I never would, because I know the nonsense that they have to deal with on a daily basis, and I know I cannot manage it. I automatically respect someone who was or is a server. However, we need to stop blaming the customers and calling them cheap and stingy just because they don't tip, because tipping is not mandatory. It is a choice. 98% of the time when I go out to eat, I tip because my service is at least good. It just has to be good in order for you to get a tip. If your service is bad to the point where I don't want to come back, I'm not giving you a tip. But it is not the customer's job to pay your wage. We need to be taking this up with companies who are not paying their staff enough money. Tipping culture has gone insane in America. A lot of places nowadays add the gratuity to your receipt, so you don't even have the choice to choose how much you want to tip if you want to tip. Blame the wage makers, not the customers.
I'm not gonna tip you just because you turned the iPad around and I pushed the button, bro. Like,
yep.
The comment that I absolutely hate the most is like when people say like, if you can't tip, don't go out. Like
Right.
it's not. I'm not gonna give out free money, and it's just companies trying to get away with not paying their employees what they
Yes.
deserve. And they have the assets to pay these people more, but they just don't want to.
Yep.
They give you this option to tip, given this like social pressure to tip. And I agree with you. Like if it's a server and they're coming multiple times and they're giving me good service, bro, I'm gonna tip you. If you're a bad server, you don't get a tip, bro. Like if you're not working hard, if you come and like you give me water once and you don't come till I ask for the check, like I'm not gonna fucking tip you. Like tips are earned, bro. Like tips are earned, and companies should pay their people more so they don't have to fucking worry about tip.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks for your support. Wait, hold on.
Tipping culture is out of control. This is a list of people I'm not tipping in 2024, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm not tipping at the drive-thru. I'm not tipping for Froyo. I'm not tipping for Auntie Anne's. Yes, they ask for tips there now. And I'm not tipping on to-go orders. And I know the hostesses have such a huge problem. This is my opinion. And yes, I have been a hostess and a server in a past life. Anyone who sets their own prices, I will absolutely not be tipping you. The whole point of tipping a service professional is that you're paying the business like double or triple what the employee is actually making during that service. So if you're both the business and the servicing employee, why would I pay more on top of that if you're going to obtain the full 100% of what I pay? Doesn't make any sense. If you need a medical qualification or license in order to administer the service to me, I'm not giving you a tip. It goes against the code of ethics to accept tips for these types of procedures. So
in the United States has gotten out of control. Just finished dinner in Italy, had a great 3-course meal, paid the bill, the waiter brings out the check and goes, sign here please. I go to sign it and there's only a line to sign your name. There's no tip line, there's no total line, nothing. You just sign your name, that's it. Meanwhile in America, you pay for a water bottle and they flip the screen around and ask you to tip 20 to 30% for grabbing a water bottle. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to tip for great dinner service. Like this guy in Italy deserved a fat tip, but to tip for a Starbucks employee to hand me a water bottle, like where do we draw the line, seriously?
I did not tip the girl who did my braids yesterday, and this was the first time I haven't tipped to get my hair done, and I was fueled with anxiety, especially when I hand her over the cash and she starts counting it, and I was like, I just did not feel like tipping was necessary on this service. For reference, this was $350 to get done. These are small, knotless, and this is a French curl braid. That averages out, took her 7.5 hours, $46 an hour. Minus the cost of hair, so we'll just round it down to $40 an hour. She didn't have to commute. She's not paying any extra overhead because she works from home. I think that that's a really good price. How many people are making $40 an hour? I want to also add that I had to go to the ATM, which is the most inconvenient method of payment, to go get the exact amount of cash that I needed for the appointment. I also had to come washed, conditioned, and blow dried. And I was the one that had to do the commuting. This is no shade, no tea, no nothing. This was the most comfortable braiding experience I've ever gotten. She was the best braider I've ever had, and I will definitely be going back to her. A lot of people say tipping is how you say thank you, but to me, saying thank you is how you say thank you. Respecting people's policies, arriving to your appointment on time, being respectful of the space that you're in, letting them take photos of their work after, and maybe telling your friends, or if you have a social media following, that to me is how you say thank you. We don't need to bump someone's $40 an hour work up to $45 to say thank you. Sue me.
Tell me why I was asked to tip today at Subway. And don't get me wrong, like, I tip all the time. I tip my groomers, my hairstylists, my nail techs, my tattoo artists. When I go out and eat at a restaurant, I tip. But like, how many more people am I gonna have to tip? Because I'm not sure I can afford to exist at this point. And if chain companies are going to ask us to start tipping the service workers, I want it to be guaranteed that that worker actually gets the tips and isn't just sent to like the CEO. And this just gets me thinking, I wonder if like the chain restaurants are going to start implementing tips so then they don't have to pay their workers like a livable wage. I believe like no matter what your job is, you deserve to be able to survive comfortably in this world. But I don't think it's my job as a consumer to foot the bill. And obviously, I do understand that a lot of service workers like live off of tips. Like I always tip baristas, bartenders, waitstaff. But like who needs a tip and who doesn't? Or even like at the dispensary, like I know people at the dispensary make a good amount of money, but there's always like a tip jar for them. And I also don't know if I'm supposed to tip when I get takeout, but I try to every once in a while because it's like I'm just paying for the food, but I know like someone is handing it to me and I assume like they're getting an hourly rate already. But I'm just scared I'm gonna have to like start tipping the man that changes my oil and then my doctor and the mailman. And I think I heard before that some people like tip their garbage men at the end of the year. So if you work at Subway or any other chain restaurant that asks for tips, will you let me know in the comments if you actually receive those tips? And also like let me know who you do tip and who you don't, because like I'm confused and I don't want to look like an asshole every time I go out.
So tipping is just getting out of control. I was just at Starbucks picking up a coffee in the drive-thru, and I get to the front and I'm paying and he's like, oh, I was just gonna ask you a quick question. And we all know what that means. Tipping, fine, but what am I tipping for? If I have to tip for this, like what's next? Yeah, nurse, it looks like we got him back. Hey, Johnny, good to see you. Hey, before we hook you up to the ventilator, it's just gonna ask you a quick question.
You know what the minimum wage is in Los Angeles? $17 and you want me to tip on top of that? I go to John and Vinnies, my favorite Italian restaurant in Los Angeles. They add an 18% surcharge on top of the bill. Then it says tip. Not included in the 18% we already tacked on.
You gotta put on another?
You want me to tip another 20%?
That's like 50%?
Now, on top of the fact that you charge me $27 for a fucking piece of pizza? My tipping is very specific. If there's a level of service involved, like there's an actual human who says hello to you, delivers you a drink, like a server, they get 20%. If you make me a coffee at Starbucks, you get nothing.
Oh,
$0. You made me a coffee, bro. That, by the way, I paid $9 for.
And they're probably
and it was
now the self-checkout robots are doing. Do you want to add a tip? Who are you tipping?
Well, the robots.
The robots need tips.
How do you know what's going on in their lives?
Little baby robots.
That's what I'm saying.
At home need to eat.
Yeah, maybe they have a fucking cheating ass husband or abusive robot spouse.
Tipping culture is not out of control. You guys are just assholes, which is what I used to think. Until my parents were visiting me and their like air conditioning broke. So I drive my dad over to pick up the car and he comes back with the keys about to like walk over to where the car is. And he's kind of distraught, which is not like him. And he's like, I always tip, but I'm confused. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, I literally just paid, I don't know, $500 to have my car fixed. And then the guy swivels at the car mechanic, swivels the screen around and is like, you want to tip 20%, 25%, 30%. And he's like, I never don't push a button for a percentage to tip, but I didn't tip. Are we tipping car mechanics now? And I was like, no, we're definitely not tipping car mechanics now, at least not that I know about. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pushing it.